Hi, in this video I would like to show you how I knit a scarf lengthwise. So I knit the scarves back and forward this way instead of this way. I will show how to do the garter stitch scarf, and I have another video that shows the technique on how to do the reversed ridge scarf, at least the pattern. I will show you how to make the scarf from start to finish in this video, and for written pattern and information about yarn, needle size, and how to get the right size for your scarf, you should use the link in the top right corner. That will take you to my website where you can find a free pattern and all the information you need. Thank you. So now I'm ready to cast on. Here's my yarn, and for my cast on here I will need a generous tail or yarn end. I will take at least 3 times the length of my scarf, just to be sure. If you prefer a different method to cast on, please use your chosen method. I will place a link in the top right corner of another method of cast on, which does not require this very long yarn end. But now I'm ready to cast on, and I begin by making a slip knot. I place it on one of my circular needles and I tighten, just so, not too tight, but so it sits close on my needle. I have my ball of yarn here, so this end goes to my ball of yarn, and this is my yarn end. And I take both yarns and hold like this, and then I separate them so that I keep my ball of yarn away from me and the yarn end towards me. I use my thumb and index finger to divide them. Then I turn my hand like this, and I move my knitting needle down. Now you can see I have a loop around my thumb. I take my knitting needle and I begin here at the base of my thumb, and I move up through the yarn, and I go to the tip of my index finger, down behind the yarn there. I go back to my thumb and back through the yarn the way I came, and then I slip the yarn off my thumb and place it next to the first stitch. And again I begin at the base of my thumb, up through the yarn to the tip of my index finger, behind the yarn, back to the thumb, down through the yarn, slip it off and onto the needle. And I will continue like this until I have the amount of stitches on my needle that I want. And then I will get back to you when I am ready to begin knitting my scarf. So now my cast on is finished. Here it is, and I'm ready to begin knitting the scarf. I usually, when I knit with one color, I hold my yarn over 2 fingers like this, and here I have my second circular needle, and I am ready to begin. And I always slip the first stitch when I go knit back and forward on 2 needles like this. So now I will go from left and to the right through the stitch like this, and just slip it off the needle and onto the second needle. And now I'm ready to knit. And when I do knit stitches, I begin here again from the left through the stitch towards the right. Then I move my knitting needle to the tip of my index finger, and then I go behind my yarn like this, so that I can bring the yarn through the stitch and off the needle like this. Again, my needle through the stitch from left to right to the tip of my index finger, behind the yarn, bring the yarn through the stitch and slip it off the needle. And I will continue to knit until I'm at the end of this needle, and then I will get back to you to show how I end and begin the new needle. So now I have finished my first needle, and I have kept doing knit stitches all the way to the end here. So next step is to turn like this and to begin the next needle. Let's see. So, but as you can see, the yarn that I am working with will now, when I turn, will face towards me. So one option is that I just bring it under here and slip the first stitch and keep knitting. This will give me an edge with little bumps or knots on it, and that's okay, but personally I don't like them. I want a smoother edge, and by doing this instead, placing the yarn over the needle here between the first and the second stitch, and then, well, let's see. There you go. And then slip the first stitch. That will bring the yarn between the first and the second stitch like that, so that when I keep knitting, I will get a sort of a V pattern along the edge instead. And that's it really. I will now continue to knit back and forward in knit stitches only, making a pattern called garter stitch. And I will get back to you when my scarf is finished and I am ready to cast off. And now I'm satisfied with the size of my scarf and I'm ready to cast off. And when I do, I begin as I have done when I have knitted the scarf. I slip the first stitch and I knit the next, and then I take the first stitch and I slip it over the second and off my needle like this. So now I have cast off one stitch. Then I knit the next stitch and I take always the one on the right and slip it over and off the needle. And so I continue until I have only one stitch left, and when I do I will get back to you on how I finish. So now I have finished my cast off and I'm left here with this last stitch and I have cut my yarn. So only thing left to do is just to pull the yarn end like this. Pull the last stitch until you pull the yarn end through, and that's it. The scarf is finished.